Hey guys, tonight we wake before dawn in the vast Persian Empire, when the sky is still a deep indigo bowl and the air tastes faintly of dust and cold stone. You are not royalty, not a general, not even a priest with a dramatic beard and a suspiciously smoky altar. You are something far more restless. You are a royal messenger, one of the king's own couriers, and in a few minutes, you will ride. A thin line of pale light hovers over the horizon beyond the mud brick walls of the relay station. Somewhere in the courtyard, a horse stamps and exhales steam into the chill. You roll from your wool blanket, joints already aware of yesterday's miles. This is not the sort of job with ergonomic seating. In fact, you probably won't survive this, at least not comfortably. Blisters, saddle sores, and the constant possibility of bandits are just part of the benefits package. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And as you settle in, tell me your location and local time. Are you listening in the middle of the night like a true insomniac courier, or is it a quiet afternoon somewhere far from ancient Persia? Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The relay station smells of straw, leather, and faint wood smoke from last night's fire. You sit up slowly, tying your simple tunic at the waist. Outside, another courier mutters a prayer to Ahura Mazda under his breath. The Persian Empire, at its height under kings like Darius I, stretches from the Indus Valley to the shores of the Mediterranean. That is not an exaggeration. It is, in fact, one of the largest empires the world has yet seen. And somehow, it functions. A big reason for that functioning is you. You step into the courtyard where the stablemaster waits, already awake because, apparently, sleep is optional in imperial logistics. He hands you a leather satchel. Inside is a clay tablet wrapped in cloth and sealed with the royal seal, pressed with authority into soft clay before being hardened. Breaking that seal without permission is not just frowned upon, it is treason. The great king's word travels through you, and you do not peek, even if curiosity tickles, especially if curiosity tickles. Historians still argue whether the royal messengers memorized portions of the messages they carried, just in case something happened to the tablet. Some suggest redundancy was built into the system. Others believe the physical seal was everything. Either way, you are entrusted with words that can move armies, adjust taxes, or replace a governor. No pressure. Your horse today is a compact, sturdy animal, bred for endurance rather than beauty. Persian horses are prized across the empire, and the cavalry is legendary. But you are not here to look majestic. You are here to move quickly and not fall off. You run your hand along the horse's neck, feeling warmth beneath coarse hair. The stablemaster reminds you, unnecessarily, that there will be fresh mounts at the next station. The system is designed for speed, mounted couriers riding in relays across the royal road. This road, built and maintained under Darius I, stretches roughly 2,500 kilometers from Susa to Sardis. That's about 1,600 miles in modern terms. Herodotus famously wrote that neither snow, nor rain, nor heat, nor gloom of night stops these couriers from their appointed rounds. Yes, the Postal Service motto you might know has ancient Persian vibes. You, however, would settle for neither saddle rash nor existential dread. You swing into the saddle, adjusting the saddle so it rests snugly against your side. The first light spills over the land, revealing a flat expanse dotted with low shrubs and distant hills. The road beneath you is hard-packed earth, occasionally paved with stone in more important stretches. Way stations, called chaparkhane, are spaced at regular intervals, stocked with fresh horses and supplies. It is an early version of overnight shipping, minus the tracking number. A horn sounds softly from the station gate. It is not dramatic. No one throws flower petals.
This is routine. Empires run on routine.
You nudge the horse forward, hooves thudding rhythmically against the road. The air grows warmer as the sun climbs, brushing your face with light. You ride past fields where farmers already bend to their work, irrigating crops with canals that reflect Persian administrative genius. The empire allows many regions to keep their own customs and religions, as long as they pay taxes and don't revolt. A fairly straightforward arrangement, if you think about it.
A shepherd pauses to watch you pass. He knows what you are, by the speed, by the posture, by the emblem stitched subtly on your satchel. Royal messenger. Important. Busy. Possibly late. You resist the urge to wave like a parade float.
There is a quiet pride in this role. You are part of the arteries of a vast political body. The satraps, provincial governors, depend on these messages. Without communication, rebellions would simmer too long. Orders would arrive too late. The king's will would dissolve in distance. And distance is your constant companion. A quirky tidbit drifts through your mind as you ride. Some sources hint that couriers sometimes carried small tokens or symbolic objects alongside written messages, rings, cords, or marked rods, to confirm authenticity in case seals were tampered with. Others argue this is later embellishment. Historians still argue whether the system was as flawless as ancient writers claimed, or if those glowing descriptions were a bit of imperial propaganda. After all, every empire likes to think its mail never gets lost. The sun climbs higher. The morning chill fades, replaced by dry warmth that seeps into your clothes. Dust lifts lightly behind you, settling again in the silence. Your thoughts settle into the rhythm of hooves. You think about the next station, the quick exchange of horses, the brief gulp of water, and then onward again.
You also think, briefly, about breakfast. There is no royal banquet awaiting you. Perhaps a bit of flatbread, maybe dates if you're lucky. The empire spans 3 continents, but your stomach remains stubbornly local. The road stretches ahead, pale and unwavering. You lean forward slightly, letting the horse find a steady pace. The satchel rests against your hip, heavy with the quiet weight of words you will never read. Behind you, the relay station shrinks into the morning haze.
Ahead lies the long line of empire, and you ride straight into it.
The rhythm of hooves settles into your bones as the king's road unfurls before you, pale and unwavering, like a promise pressed flat across the land. The morning sun is now fully awake, spilling gold over fields and low hills, and you ride straight into its glow. Dust lifts behind you in soft sighs, clinging lightly to your sandals and the hem of your tunic. You are no longer just leaving a station. You are entering the bloodstream of an empire.
The royal road is not one single neat strip of paving stones from end to end. Some stretches are carefully laid with stone, especially near major cities. Others are hardened earth, wide enough for chariots, pack animals, and caravans to pass without too much grumbling. Under King Darius I, this network is expanded and standardized, linking distant provinces in a way that would make any modern logistics manager quietly weep with admiration. Messages can travel astonishing distances in a matter of days, not months, thanks to the relay system you are part of. Herodotus claims the couriers move with unmatched speed, braving snow, rain, heat, and darkness. As you ride, the sun already warming your shoulders, you can confirm at least one of those. Heat is absolutely on the menu. Snow, perhaps not today. Gloom of night, that will come later, and you will have opinions. You pass a group of merchants guiding donkeys heavy with woven textiles. Their accents hint at lands far west, perhaps Lydia or even beyond. The Persian Empire is famously tolerant of local customs and religions, as long as taxes flow and loyalty holds. It is one of the reasons it grows so large, and for a time remains remarkably stable. Aramaic serves as an administrative language across many regions, smoothing communication across cultures. You, however, are fluent in the universal language of, "Please let the next horse be fast." The road dips gently toward a narrow bridge spanning a dry riverbed. Stone supports anchor it firmly, evidence of imperial investment in infrastructure. Maintaining roads is not glamorous, but it is powerful. Without roads, armies stall. Without roads, tax collectors get lost. Without roads, you are just a very determined person yelling into the wilderness. Historians still argue whether the royal road was as centrally planned as ancient sources suggest, or whether it evolved from earlier trade routes that the Persians simply upgraded and formalized. Either way, by your time, it is undeniably imperial. Way stations, chaparkhane, dot the route at intervals that allow riders like you to switch horses before exhaustion sets in. It is a relay system built on discipline and timing. If a station fails to have a fresh mount ready, the delay ripples outward like a stone tossed into water. You lean forward slightly as your current horse increases its pace. The wind brushes your face, carrying the scent of dry grass and distant cooking fires. On the horizon, low mountains rise in hazy blue layers. Somewhere beyond them lie cities whose names echo through the empire. Susa, Babylon, Sardis. Each city is a jewel, and the road threads them together like a necklace. A cart creaks past in the opposite direction, pulled by oxen who look deeply unimpressed by your urgency. The driver tips his head respectfully. He knows better than to obstruct a royal messenger. There are penalties for interfering with the king's business, and they are not mild suggestions. You allow yourself a small, sleepy smile. For once, traffic parts for you. If only modern commutes were so obedient. The satchel at your side feels heavier as the hours stretch. Not physically heavier. Clay does not gain weight with sunlight, but symbolically. Within it is a sealed tablet bearing the royal mark. The seal, often impressed with intricate imagery, serves as authentication. Breaking it without authorization is a direct challenge to the king himself. In a world without encrypted emails, a lump of clay and a stamp carry the weight of empire. There is a curious rumor whispered among some travelers that certain royal messages were believed to carry divine protection, as if Ahura Mazda himself watched over the courier. A charming idea, especially when crossing lonely stretches of road. Whether this belief was official doctrine or comforting superstition is debated. You would not object to a little divine oversight, particularly if it includes warding off saddle soreness. The landscape shifts subtly as the morning deepens. Fields give way to scrubland. The road narrows slightly, edged by low stones marking its boundaries. In the distance, you spot a small watchtower perched on a rise. Garrisons positioned along key routes keep an eye on movement, discouraging bandits and reminding everyone that the king's reach is long. The Persian military machine is formidable, but it is the quiet efficiency of systems like this that truly sustain power. A mainstream fact drifts through your thoughts as you ride. The Persian Empire is divided into satrapies, each governed by a satrap responsible for collecting taxes and maintaining order. These officials report back to the king, often through messages like the one bouncing gently at your hip. It is a delicate balance of local autonomy and centralized oversight. Too much freedom and rebellion brews. Too much control and resentment simmers. The road helps maintain that balance, stitching communication tight enough to hold. You reach the crest of a small incline and pause briefly, allowing your horse a measured breath. From here, you can see the faint outline of the next relay station in the distance, a cluster of low buildings encircled by a simple wall. Smoke curls lazily upward. Fresh horses await. Relief in equine form. You pat your mount's neck in quiet gratitude. Soon, another rider will take this horse's place, and you will swing on to a new one, barely pausing before pressing on. The system depends on continuity, on momentum, on you not deciding to take an impromptu picnic.
The sun climbs higher, bright but not yet oppressive. The road hums with subtle life. Travelers, traders, soldiers, farmers, each playing a small role in the machinery of empire. And you, moving swiftly among them, feel both invisible and essential. Ahead, the relay station grows clearer with every stride. The King's Road does not bend for comfort. It stretches onward, patient and persistent. And you ride its length, carrying the Empire's pulse forward, one hoofbeat at a time. The relay station rises from the plain like a low, practical promise. Thick mud brick walls, a wooden gate slightly ajar, and the faint, comforting chaos of animals inside. As you approach, a guard steps forward, hand lifted in recognition rather than challenge. He has seen that satchel shape before. He knows the rhythm of urgency in your horse's stride. You do not slow dramatically. This is not a grand arrival. It is choreography. The gate swings wider. You guide your horse through, and immediately hands reach for the reins, not to take control of you, but to help. A stable hand clicks his tongue softly, leading your mount toward shade and water. You swing down from the saddle in one practiced motion, legs tingling with the aftershock of hours in motion. For a moment, the world feels like it is still moving beneath you, as if the ground itself has adopted the rhythm of hooves. A fresh horse stands ready nearby, already saddled. That is the point. The Persian courier system operates in relays precisely so you do not have to wait for an exhausted animal to recover. Under Darius I, these stations are spaced at intervals of roughly a day's hard ride, sometimes less, allowing messages to travel astonishing distances quickly. Ancient sources suggest that a message could cross the empire far faster through this system than any single rider could manage alone. You are one link in a chain, and the chain is strong because no link lingers too long. A clerk emerges from a shaded doorway, holding a small wax tablet. He notes your arrival time with careful scratches. Bureaucracy is alive and well, even here in the dust. The Empire's strength lies not just in armies, but in record-keeping. Taxes are tallied, supplies are counted, couriers are logged. Somewhere, someone could probably calculate your average speed and gently shame you if you dawdle. You resist the urge to ask for a performance review. Instead, you hand the reins of your spent horse fully over and shift your satchel, ensuring the seal remains intact. The clerk's eyes flick briefly to it, verifying the royal mark is unbroken. He does not touch it. He does not ask what it contains. That is not his role. Everyone here understands the hierarchy of knowledge. The message flows forward. Curiosity stays politely behind.
Historians still argue whether these relay stations were staffed primarily by state employees or by locals fulfilling imperial obligations. Some evidence suggests communities along the royal road were required to provide horses and provisions as part of their tax duties. Others argue for a more centralized administration with permanent staff. As you stand here, gulping water from a clay cup, you suspect the truth is probably a bit of both.
Empires, like people, prefer flexibility when it suits them. You take a bite of flatbread offered by a young attendant, chewing quickly but gratefully. It is slightly stale, but you are not in a position to critique the menu. A handful of dates follows, sweet and sticky, reviving your focus. Hydration, carbohydrates, and imperial expectations. This is your breakfast of champions. The new horse is led forward. This one is taller, with a darker coat and alert eyes. You run your hand along its neck, murmuring softly. Persian horses are known for endurance, and the Empire's cavalry reputation is formidable. Though you are not charging into battle, your mission demands similar resilience. The saddle feels familiar, the leather warm from the sun. There is a brief moment, a slender, almost invisible pause.
where you could linger. You could stretch longer, ask about the weather ahead, debate the merits of different horse breeds. But the entire system is designed to eliminate such indulgence. The clerk nods once. Time to move. You mount smoothly. A stable hand adjusts the strap beneath the horse's belly, tightening it with efficient hands. The guard at the gate gives you a look that is half respect, half relief. Your urgency is contagious. Once you leave, the station exhales, resetting for the next arrival. As you ride out, you reflect on the remarkable coordination required to sustain this network. Across thousands of kilometers, stations must maintain horses, feed, staff, and supplies. Communication must be reliable. The Persian Empire, divided into satrapies, depends on this flow of information to function. Rebellions can be reported quickly. Tax shortfalls can be addressed. Orders from the great king can ripple outward with impressive speed. There is also a quieter, slightly quirky rumor that some stations kept spare seals or emergency tablets in case of accidents, allowing messages to be recopied under strict supervision. Whether this was common practice or a rare contingency is unclear. The idea, though, is strangely comforting. Even in antiquity, there may have been a backup plan. You settle into the new rhythm of this fresh mount. The horse moves differently. Longer strides, a slightly sharper responsiveness to the reins. The change is invigorating. Fatigue that clung to your muscles loosens just enough to let you believe you could ride forever, or at least until sunset. The road stretches onward once more, but now you carry with you the faint echo of the station's order and efficiency. You are not alone in this task. Behind you and ahead of you are others, clerks, stable hands, guards, each playing their part. It is an intricate dance of logistics that modern systems would recognize instantly. Hubs, relays, standardized processes. The difference is that your express delivery comes with dust in your teeth. You glance back only once, seeing the station shrink into the haze. Already another rider approaches from the opposite direction, a mirror of your own urgency. For a fleeting second, you wonder about his message. Is it joyful news? Grim instructions? A mundane tax reminder? The Empire runs on both drama and paperwork, often more paperwork. The sun edges higher, casting shorter shadows. Your new horse maintains a steady, confident pace. The satchel rests securely against your hip, the seal unbroken. The words within silent but powerful. You ride on, refreshed but aware that this pattern will repeat again and again. Arrival, exchange, departure. It is almost soothing in its predictability. Almost. Because beyond the next station, the land begins to rise, and the road, loyal though it is, does not promise ease, only continuity. The land begins to rise in long, patient slopes, and you feel it first in your thighs before you truly see it in the distance. The easy rhythm of the plain gives way to the steady climb of foothills, the road narrowing as it threads between rocky outcrops and scrub-covered ridges. The wind changes here. It carries less warmth and more edge, slipping beneath your tunic like a quiet reminder that comfort is temporary. Your horse adjusts its stride without complaint. The royal road, loyal as ever, curves deliberately along the contours of the terrain. It does not simply charge up the steepest incline, it bends and climbs with strategy. Persian engineers, practical and observant, understand that endurance wins over brute force. In certain mountain passes, the Empire invests in retaining walls and carefully graded paths to make travel possible for carts and riders alike. This is not a reckless empire. It is an organized one. As you ascend, the world behind you stretches wide and pale, the lowlands fading into a dusty blur. Ahead, jagged ridgelines cut into the sky. Somewhere beyond them lie more stations, more horses, more ink pressed into clay.
You lean forward slightly, giving your mount encouragement, though it needs little. The satchel at your hip thumps gently with each stride, a steady, silent metronome.
A watchtower appears on a rocky prominence above the road. 2 soldiers stand in its shadow, spears upright, silhouettes stark against the brightening sky. Garrisons positioned along vulnerable stretches of the royal road serve as both protection and reminder. Banditry exists, of course. No empire, however grand, eliminates opportunists entirely. But the presence of soldiers discourages most would-be thieves from testing imperial patience. You swallow, the dry air tugging at your throat. Losing the king's message is not an option. It is not just about personal survival, though you are fond of that concept. It is about trust. The great king's authority radiates outward, and you are a thin beam carrying that light forward. Dropping it into a ravine would be poorly received. Historians still argue whether bandit attacks on royal couriers were common or exaggerated in later retellings to dramatize the system's resilience. Some sources suggest the network was so well guarded that interference was rare. Others point to the sheer size of the empire and insist that danger was inevitable in remote stretches. As you guide your horse around a bend with a sheer drop to one side, you decide the debate is less comforting than you would prefer. The road narrows briefly, hugging a cliff face. Below, a dry valley yawns, dotted with thorny shrubs and the faint outline of a caravan trail. You slow your pace, letting your horse pick careful footing over loose stones. The world feels quieter here, as if sound itself hesitates before echoing off the rock. Even the wind lowers its voice. You pass a small shrine built into a recess of stone, simple, unadorned, perhaps dedicated to a local spirit or a regional interpretation of divine presence. The Persian Empire, notably tolerant of various religions, allows conquered peoples to maintain their beliefs. This policy, pragmatic as it is generous, helps reduce rebellion and fosters a sense of continuity across vast territories. You offer a brief nod towards the shrine, not out of strict devotion, but out of habit. When you ride through lonely passes, politeness toward the unseen feels wise. A quirky tidbit surfaces in your thoughts. Some later legends claim that royal messengers wore subtle insignia or carried distinctive staffs to identify themselves quickly at a distance, minimizing confusion in tense situations. Whether this was standard practice or embroidered storytelling is unclear. You glance at your own attire, functional, unremarkable, efficient. If you are meant to be distinctive, it is through speed and posture, not fashion. Ancient high-visibility vests have yet to be invented. The climb continues. Your horse's breathing deepens, steady but more pronounced. You murmur softly, adjusting your weight to ease the ascent. Sweat gathers at the base of your neck, trickling beneath your collar. The empire may be vast and impressive, but gravity remains stubbornly local and unimpressed by imperial authority. At the crest of a ridge, the view opens abruptly. Beyond lies a harsher landscape, rolling hills that fade into stretches of arid land where the soil turns pale and cracked. The mountains give way not to lush valleys, but to open expanses where shade is a rare luxury. The road continues, thinner now, a pale ribbon cutting across the earth. Descending is no less demanding than climbing. You guide your horse carefully, avoiding loose gravel that could send both of you sliding. The wind rises again, warmer this time, carrying dust that pricks against your skin. You wrap a cloth loosely over your mouth, breathing through fabric that tastes faintly of last station's smoke and bread. In the distance, you spot a small patrol moving along a parallel ridge. Persian soldiers, identifiable by their distinctive attire and the glint of metal in the sun. The Empire's military presence is subtle but constant along critical routes. It is a reassurance and a warning at once. You cannot help but imagine the alternative: a lone rider, unprotected, carrying a message of consequence across such terrain. The royal road system transforms vulnerability into structure. You are still one person on one horse, but you are supported by stations, guards, engineers, clerks. Infrastructure is invisible strength.
The afternoon light shifts, casting longer shadows across the hills. The heat settles heavier now, pressing against your shoulders. You think briefly of the flatbread at the last station, of the stable hand's efficient hands tightening the girth. Small human gestures woven into a vast machine.
The terrain grows flatter again, though the dryness remains. Sparse trees twist toward the sky, their leaves dusty and resilient. The road widens slightly, and you allow your horse to regain a steadier pace. The satchel bumps gently at your side, the seal still intact, the clay tablet within unchanged by mountain wind or desert heat.
You ride on, aware that the greatest dangers are often not dramatic ambushes, but slow wear, fatigue, distraction, a misjudged step. The Empire depends on you not making those mistakes. The sun edges westward, its glare softening just enough to suggest evening will eventually come. For now, though, the road stretches forward through this watchful landscape of stone and sand. You adjust your grip on the reins, sit a little straighter, and guide your horse onward. Through mountains, across dry earth, under the silent gaze of towers and gods and soldiers alike. The King's Road does not end at the first hardship, and neither do you.
The dry hills soften gradually into cultivated land, and you feel the shift before you fully see it. The air grows heavier, richer with the scent of irrigation and distant cooking fires. The road widens, smoothing beneath your horse's hooves as it approaches one of the Empire's provincial capitals, a city that hums not with isolation, but with layered human life.
Mud brick walls rise ahead, sturdy and sun-baked, reinforced by towers at intervals. Beyond them, flat-roofed buildings cluster tightly, smoke curling upward in pale ribbons. You adjust your posture instinctively. Cities require a different kind of riding. Not slower exactly, but more aware. At the gate, guards in Persian attire, soft caps, layered garments, spears upright, stand watch. The Empire's military presence is consistent, but here it feels concentrated. One guard raises a hand, then lowers it when he spots the satchel and the pace of your arrival. Royal messenger, urgent, not to be delayed by routine chatter about market tolls. Inside, the sound changes immediately. The steady hush of open road is replaced by layered noise. Traders calling out prices, the clatter of pottery, bleating goats, the steady thump of grain being ground. You guide your horse carefully through narrow streets, weaving past carts and pedestrians who flatten themselves politely against walls. A few glance up with curiosity. Some nod respectfully. Others simply continue their business. After all, empires run on routine, and even urgency becomes ordinary when it passes daily through your gate. This provincial capital is governed by a satrap, an appointed official responsible for maintaining order, collecting taxes, and forwarding revenue to the great king. The satrap answers to the throne, and often to royal inspectors who travel unannounced to ensure loyalty. Communication between satrap and king is essential. Without it, corruption festers, or rebellion smolder unnoticed. You are, quite literally, the connective tissue between throne and province. You pass a courtyard where scribes sit cross-legged, reed pens poised over tablets and papyrus. Aramaic script curves across surfaces in neat lines, serving as a common administrative language across much of the empire. It smooths the friction between cultures, Babylonian, Egyptian, Lydian, and many more. The Persian policy of allowing local customs to continue
has created a mosaic of languages and traditions, but administration requires a shared thread.
A mainstream fact hums quietly in your thoughts. The Achaemenid Empire organizes its territories into satrapies, each with a governor, a military commander, and a financial officer. These roles are often deliberately separated to prevent any one individual from amassing too much power. Checks and balances, ancient edition. You cannot help but admire the design. It is surprisingly modern in spirit.
You steer your horse toward a designated courtyard near the administrative complex. A stable hand approaches, eyeing your mount with professional interest. This is not a full stop, not yet. You are not delivering here, but you must record your passage and perhaps exchange mounts once more. The city station is larger, busier.
As you dismount, the ground feels oddly solid after hours in the saddle. Your legs wobble faintly, though you disguise it with a purposeful stride. No need to advertise that you are essentially half centaur by now. A clerk emerges, robes neatly arranged, expression composed. He glances at the seal on your satchel, nods once, and marks your arrival. Time logged. Direction confirmed. Taxes are being tallied in a nearby room. You glimpse stacks of goods, woven textiles, sacks of grain, jars of oil, awaiting assessment. The empire does not merely collect coins, it accepts tribute in various forms, adjusted according to region. Herodotus even recorded specific tribute amounts assigned to different satrapies, though historians still argue whether his figures were precise or somewhat dramatized. Ancient accounting, like modern accounting, occasionally invites debate.
You accept a cup of watered wine from an attendant. It is thin but refreshing, cutting through the dryness of the road. Around you, merchants haggle in multiple languages. A trader from Egypt gestures animatedly over a shipment of papyrus. A craftsman from Anatolia displays metalwork that glints in the afternoon sun. The empire's diversity is not abstract, it is audible, visible, tangible.
A quirky rumor circulates in places like this, that certain satraps sometimes tried to intercept or subtly influence royal messages, hoping to shape how news reached the king. There is little concrete evidence for such meddling, and historians still argue whether these tales reflect isolated incidents or later political gossip. But the mere existence of the rumor underscores how powerful communication can be. Control the message, and you tilt the balance.
You tighten the strap of your satchel slightly, feeling the reassuring hardness of the sealed tablet beneath cloth. No one here touches it. No one asks. Your role is clear, and so is theirs. The stable hand brings forward a fresh horse, broad-shouldered, steady-eyed. City horses are well fed, their coats brushed smooth. You murmur softly as you mount again, the motion practiced and fluid. The courtyard gate opens to release you back into the layered hum of the streets.
As you ride toward the far gate of the city, you pass a small temple where incense curls lazily upward. The Persian policy of religious tolerance allows temples to stand and rituals to continue as long as loyalty to the king remains intact. It is a pragmatic approach, one that reduces friction across vast territories. You find yourself appreciating the balance, authority without suffocation. At the outer gate, the guards step aside without hesitation. The city falls behind you gradually, its noise fading into a low murmur. The road stretches ahead once more, now flanked by fields and irrigation canals that shimmer in the late light. Farmers glance up as you pass, shading their eyes. To them, you are both familiar and distant, a symbol of something larger than their daily routines.
The satrap city recedes into the background, but its administrative pulse continues to echo in your mind. Taxes counted, reports written, orders awaiting response. All of it threaded together by writers like you. The sun dips slightly, painting the land in warmer tones. You adjust your grip on the reins and urge your horse forward. The empire is not just walls and watchtowers, it is marketplaces and scribes, temples and tax ledgers. It is complexity held together by movement. And you, dust-covered and quietly determined, continue to carry that movement onward, away from the city's noise and back into the long, patient stretch of road. The city's murmur fades behind you, dissolving into the long sigh of wind across open land. Fields thin out, replaced by wide stretches of dry earth that glow softly under the lowering sun. The road feels quieter here, less crowded, as if even the empire's administrative heartbeat softens in these in-between spaces. Your horse settles into a steady rhythm, hooves drumming lightly against the packed earth. The satchel at your side presses firmly against your hip, a steady reminder that you carry something sealed, sanctioned, and sacred in its own bureaucratic way. You reach down briefly, brushing your fingers against the leather flap, not to check the seal, because you've already done that twice in the last hour, but because contact reassures you. The clay tablet inside bears the king's seal, impressed while still soft and then hardened, transforming a simple lump of earth into authority incarnate. The image stamped upon it, perhaps a royal figure, perhaps a symbolic motif, declares legitimacy without a single spoken word. In a world without digital signatures or two-factor authentication, this is as secure as it gets. Break the seal, and you do not just damage clay, you fracture trust. And trust, in an empire this vast, is the rarest currency of all. A mainstream historical fact drifts through your thoughts. The Achaemenid kings relied heavily on written correspondence to govern distant satrapies, issuing decrees that addressed taxation, military movements, construction projects, and even temple restorations. Administrative tablets have been discovered in places like Persepolis, revealing a complex bureaucracy that tracked rations, labor, and supplies with impressive precision. This is not a loose confederation of lands. It is an organized system powered by documentation. You, dust-covered and slightly saddle-sore, are part of that paperwork. A warm breeze sweeps across the plain, tugging at your tunic. The sun hovers lower now, casting elongated shadows that stretch beside you like silent companions. You think about the words inside your satchel. You do not know their contents, but you know their weight. They might adjust a satrap's authority. They might demand increased tribute. They might quietly praise loyalty. Or they might simply request a report. Even empires require status updates. There are whispers, of course, about secret codes hidden within royal messages. Some later storytellers suggest that certain phrases carry double meanings, understood only by trusted officials. Historians still argue whether such cryptographic sophistication truly existed in routine correspondence, or whether it has been romanticized by modern imaginations. You suspect that most messages are far more practical than mysterious. Send grain. Reinforce the border. Explain yourself. Not exactly thrilling, but deeply consequential. Still, as the light softens, you allow yourself a flicker of imagination. Perhaps this tablet contains something transformative, a decision that will alter the balance of power in a province, a decree that will ripple outward for years. You straighten slightly in the saddle, as if posture alone can honor that possibility. The road bends gently, leading toward a cluster of low trees near a shallow stream. You guide your horse toward the water, allowing it a brief drink. The sound is soothing, steady lapping, the faint clink of bridle against bit. You dismount carefully, stretching your legs, feeling the accumulated miles in your calves and lower back. You glance around instinctively. The open plain offers little concealment, but habit demands vigilance. Royal couriers are respected, even feared, but they are not invincible. A determined thief might see not a messenger, but an opportunity. There is a peculiar belief, recorded in some later traditions, that royal messengers swore sacred oaths before undertaking their journeys, pledging loyalty not only to the king, but to divine order itself. Whether this was formalized ritual or cultural expectation is debated. Yet the idea resonates. Carrying the king's word feels less like employment and more like guardianship.
You remount smoothly, urging your horse forward once more. The sky shifts toward amber and rose, colors deepening with each passing moment. Evening approaches, and with it, a different kind of tension. Riding by night is not uncommon. The relay system prides itself on continuity regardless of darkness. But night alters perception. Shadows lengthen, sounds sharpen. You recall Herodotus's famous line about couriers undeterred by snow, rain, heat, or gloom of night. It sounds heroic when inscribed in history. It feels considerably less glamorous when you are the one squinting at a dim path under fading light. Still, the system depends on momentum. Stations ahead expect you. Clerks will mark your arrival. Fresh horses will stamp impatiently in shaded courtyards. The chain must not break. A distant torch flickers along the road ahead. A patrol, perhaps, or a marker near the next relay station. The sight steadies you. Infrastructure again. Support woven into distance. You shift the satchel slightly, ensuring it rests securely. The seal remains unbroken, the clay tablet untouched by mountain wind or city dust. The king's authority travels with you, silent but potent. The air cools gradually, easing the day's heat from your shoulders. Crickets begin their rhythmic song in the grasses. Your horse's breathing steadies into a comfortable cadence. You are tired, yes, but there is a certain clarity that comes with exhaustion, a narrowing of focus to essentials: the road, the horse, the seal, the next station. The empire is vast and complex, full of satraps, soldiers, scribes, and merchants. Yet at this moment, it narrows to you, riding beneath a darkening sky, guarding words you will never read. You ride on, a quiet sentinel of clay and leather, oath-bound by duty and momentum. And somewhere ahead, beneath the rising stars, another set of hands waits to receive what you protect.
By now, the night inside the medieval castle has settled into its deepest stillness. The torches along the stone corridors burn lower, their flames no longer lively, but steady and patient. Shadows stretch long across the flagstones, and the faint scent of smoke lingers in the air. Beyond the thick walls, the countryside sleeps beneath a dark sky scattered with stars. Inside, the servants continue their quiet routines.
In the kitchens, the last of the embers glow faintly beneath layers of ash. Earlier, the kitchen boys banked the fire carefully, covering it just enough to preserve the coals for morning. Relighting a fire from scratch was slow and difficult work, so keeping embers alive through the night was essential. The great hearth that roasted meats and boiled stews all day now rests in a soft red glow, like the fading heartbeat of the castle itself. A single scallion lingers behind to finish scrubbing the largest pots. He works slowly, rhythmically, dipping cloth into cool water and wiping soot from iron. The clink of metal against stone echoes gently in the vast kitchen chamber. When he finishes, he stacks the pots neatly, wipes his hands on a rough linen cloth, and finally allows himself to sit for a moment on a low wooden bench. Up in the great hall, the silence feels almost sacred. Hours earlier, it had been filled with conversation, laughter, and the scraping of trenchers across long tables. Now, everything is restored to order. Benches are pushed in. The rushes have been swept. The Lord's high table stands ready for the next day's meal. A lone servant moves between the walls, checking each torch bracket. One by one, he extinguishes the flames, pinching them carefully to avoid scattering sparks. With each torch that goes dark,
the hall sinks further into shadow, until only the faint glow from the corridor beyond outlines the carved beams overhead. He pauses at the great doors and listens. No footsteps, no voices, only the distant hum of wind brushing against the outer walls. In the private chambers above, the atmosphere is softer. A chambermaid checks once more on the sleeping household. She moves quietly between doorways, ensuring shutters are secured and candles fully extinguished. In the Lord's chamber, heavy curtains hang around the bed, trapping warmth within. In smaller rooms, servants and attendants sleep 2 or 3 to a pallet, breathing slow and steady. Straw mattresses rustle occasionally as someone shifts in a dream. Outside, along the walls, the night watch continues its steady patrol. The guards move in measured steps, boots scraping lightly against stone. Their cloaks are pulled tight against the cold. One pauses to peer across the dark fields beyond the moat. Nothing stirs but a distant owl and the soft ripple of water. Castles were symbols of strength and power, but at night they felt almost contemplative, like enormous stone creatures at rest.
Down in the lower passages, where storage rooms and cellars lie, the air is cooler and heavier. Barrels of ale and wine rest against damp walls. Sacks of grain are stacked carefully to keep out vermin. A servant tasked with checking stores walks slowly with a small lantern, ensuring that nothing has been disturbed. He listens for the telltale scratching of rats. If he hears any, he makes note of it for the morning. Even the smallest threat to food supplies mattered deeply. In a world without refrigeration or supermarkets, every loaf of bread and wheel of cheese represented survival. Satisfied, he lifts his lantern and makes his way back upstairs. The chapel, too, lies quiet now.
Earlier in the evening, a priest or chaplain may have said the final prayers of the day. The candles at the small altar have burned low. The faint scent of wax and incense lingers. Stone saints gaze down in silence, their carved expressions unchanged by the passing hours. Faith shaped medieval life profoundly, and even at night the castle felt watched, not only by guards on the walls, but by something unseen and eternal. In the servants' quarters, exhaustion finally overtakes the day.
Men and women who rose before dawn now sleep heavily. Their hands, calloused from scrubbing, chopping, carrying, and stitching, rest loosely at their sides. The day's aches settle into dull warmth beneath rough wool blankets. For them, night is not luxury, it is necessity. They will rise again before sunrise to rekindle fires, fetch water, bake bread, and prepare the castle for another day of work. Their rest is brief but essential, like the pause between 2 steady breaths. Somewhere in the courtyard, a stable hand checks on the horses one final time. The animals shift gently in their stalls, hooves thudding softly against packed earth. He runs a hand along a horse's flank, feeling its warmth, ensuring no distress. Satisfied, he pulls the stable door closed and slides the wooden bar into place. The castle grows quieter still. Only the wind moves now, slipping through arrow slits and along battlements. It carries with it the faint sense of earth and distant wood smoke from village cottages beyond the castle grounds. Time in the medieval world was not measured by glowing screens or ticking digital clocks. It was marked by candle stubs growing shorter, by the changing of the guard, by the gradual paling of the eastern sky. And eventually, though it may feel far away, the first hint of dawn will arrive. A faint light will creep across the horizon. The guards on the walls will notice it first. The air will shift, cooler, fresher. Birds will begin to stir in the nearby trees. Inside, one servant will wake before the rest. Perhaps it is the baker's assistant, rising early to knead dough before the castle stirs. Or the kitchen boy, sent to coax the sleeping embers back into flame. He will step quietly through corridors still wrapped in shadow, carrying kindling and hope for warmth.
He will kneel before the great hearth and blow gently onto the coals. A small flame will catch. Another breath, another spark. And just like that, the long night ends. The castle, which only hours ago lay hushed and shadowed, will begin its slow awakening. Fires will crackle. Water will splash into basins. Doors will creak open. The rhythm of labor will begin again. But for this final moment, this gentle space between night and day, the castle rests in perfect stillness.
The servants have done their work. The fires are safe. The gates are secure. The Lord sleeps peacefully behind heavy curtains, and the ancient stones, which have witnessed countless nights just like this one, stand patient and unchanging beneath the fading stars. As the first golden light touches the highest tower, the quiet labor of the night slips softly into memory, unseen, often unremarked, yet utterly essential. Because while nobles feasted and knights trained, it was the servants, moving quietly through torchlit corridors, who carried the castle safely from dusk to dawn. And now, as morning approaches, their invisible work prepares to begin again. There is a particular kind of silence that comes just before the world changes. Not the silence of deep night, when the wind moves freely and guards murmur to one another on the walls. Not the quiet of exhausted servants collapsing into straw-filled mattresses, but the fragile stillness that exists in the final stretch before dawn fully claims the sky. This is the hour when the castle truly sleeps. The embers in the hearth have dimmed to a faint orange glow. The torches in the corridors have long since been extinguished. Even the guards on the battlements speak less frequently now, their voices softened by the weight of the late hour. Inside the thick stone walls, warmth lingers from yesterday's fires, but it is fading. The air grows cooler. Breath rises faintly in the darker corners of rooms. In the great hall, the long tables rest bare and waiting. The wooden surfaces, scrubbed and wiped, reflect only the faintest hint of gray light beginning to press against the high windows. The banners hanging from the rafters stir gently, moved by drafts slipping through cracks in ancient masonry. Everything feels suspended. In the servants' quarters, bodies lie still beneath coarse wool blankets. The steady rhythm of breathing fills the room, a quiet chorus of sleep. Someone shifts, murmuring faintly in a dream. Another pulls a blanket tighter against the chill. For these men and women, rest is not indulgence, but recovery. Their days are shaped by labor, hauling water from wells, chopping vegetables, scrubbing floors, stitching garments, mending harnesses, carrying logs, cleaning rushes, tending fires. Night is their single chance to gather strength. In the stables, the horses stand half dozing. One stamps softly, adjusting its weight. Another lowers its head deeper into the straw. The scent of hay and animal warmth hangs in the air, comforting and familiar. The stable hand who checked them earlier now sleeps curled in a corner of the loft, close enough to hear if anything stirs. Above, in the Lord's chamber, heavy curtains still enclose the bed like a fabric room within a room. These curtains serve a practical purpose, trapping warmth against drafts, but they also create a sense of enclosure and safety. Beyond them, the vast castle might seem cold and echoing. Inside, it feels contained. The Lord and Lady sleep unaware of the quiet work that carried them safely through the night. Security was never taken for granted in the medieval world. Castles were built as fortresses, symbols of power and protection. Their thick walls and narrow arrow slits spoke of danger just as much as comfort. Yet in this hour, danger feels distant. The guards continue their final rotations. He has walked these walls countless times before. Below him, the courtyard lies empty. The well bucket hangs motionless. The great wooden gates remain barred. Even the dogs that sometimes bark at distant sounds now lie curled and quiet. This is the narrow window when the castle seems almost timeless. It is easy to imagine that the stones themselves are breathing, holding memories of years, decades, even centuries. These walls have witnessed feasts and funerals, celebrations and sieges, births and farewells. Yet they endure, unchanged in their patient watchfulness. In the kitchen, something stirs. A faint crackle. One of the buried embers shifts, collapsing inward as ash settles. The sound is small but distinct in the otherwise silent chamber. It signals that the fire has not fully died. Soon, someone will come to tend it. And indeed, not long after, the first servant wakes. It is often the baker's helper who rises earliest. Bread must be prepared before the rest of the household wakes. Dough needs time to knead, to rest, to rise. So while others still sleep, he pulls himself upright, rubs his eyes, and reaches for his rough-spun tunic. The floor is cold beneath his feet.
He moves carefully so as not to wake those around him. A small lantern is lit, casting a warm circle of light in the dim room. Shadows stretch and shrink as he steps into the corridor. The castle feels different at this hour. It is neither fully night nor fully day. The silence is softer now, less heavy. There is anticipation in the air. He makes his way to the kitchen hearth and kneels before it. With practiced hands, he brushes away a layer of ash, revealing the faint red glow beneath. He arranges kindling carefully, small twigs first, then slightly thicker pieces of wood. He leans forward and blows gently. A thread of smoke rises. Another breath. A spark brightens, then fades. He tries again, steady and patient. Finally, a thin flame catches, licking at the wood. It grows slowly, cautiously, until it steadies into something reliable. The hearth begins to warm the vast kitchen once more. This is how each day begins, not with fanfare or trumpets, but with breath coaxing flame. Soon another servant will rise to fetch water from the well. The pulley will creak, the bucket will splash into darkness and return heavy with cold water. Someone else will open shutters, allowing the first true light of morning to spill into rooms that were moments ago wrapped in shadow. But for a brief stretch of time, the castle exists in this delicate transition. The guards notice the sky turning from charcoal to soft blue. Birds begin tentative calls from nearby trees. A faint mist may cling to the fields beyond the walls. Inside, the first smells of baking bread mingle with the smoky warmth of rekindled fires. The long night is over. The servants who worked tirelessly through torchlit corridors, who checked gates and banked embers, who scrubbed tables and guarded stores, now pass quietly into the background as the day's labor begins anew.
Their work is rarely celebrated, yet without it, the castle could not function. Fires would die, food would spoil, doors would remain unsecured, disorder would creep in. Instead, because of them, the castle transitions seamlessly from darkness to light. And as the sun finally lifts above the horizon, casting golden light across towers and battlements, the stillness of the final night hour dissolves completely. Voices will soon fill the corridors again. Footsteps will echo. Orders will be given. Meals will be prepared. Duties will unfold in their familiar rhythm. But if you listen carefully, just before the world fully wakes, you can almost feel the memory of that fragile stillness. The hour when the castle truly slept,
the hour carried gently in the hands of those who worked unseen, ensuring that when morning came, everything was ready.
And now, as daylight spreads across stone and timber, another medieval day begins, steady, purposeful, and quietly shaped by the labors of the night. End of script. Sweet dreams.